Good Friday morning, Market Chameleons and everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the Market Chameleon pre-market show with this man, Dimitri Pargamonic. How you doing, D?
Hey, well, how's it going?
Good. You want to start with the
Okay.
disclaimer?
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind Will and I and Market Chameleon, we're not a registered investment advisor. We're not a broker dealer. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need advice, call your registered investment advisor. That's what they're there for. Um, there's the disclaimer. And
Excellent.
with that, let me share my screen here. Um, and while I'm doing that, if you're joining us for the first time, Will and I, we do these shows in the morning to try to help answer questions you may have about the Market Chameleon tools, the data, or the analytics. If you have a question, type it into that live chat on YouTube. Will's watching it and he'll read them back to me. And to give you a couple minutes to put your questions in, we'll start out taking a look at our pre-market report, see what kind of insights we could get on the pre-market trading, and then we'll move on to the questions. All right, so pre-market trades. Up top, you will see a calendar view with a summary of the pre-market activity on that specific date. You can go back to a historical date if you wish, click on it, or use this calendar, and you could bring up what happened in the pre-market on that historical date. And here we list the last weeks of summary stats. This allows you to kind of just eyeball if you spied any type of patterns or trends. Today, we're on February 9th. So here, so far, we have 485 stocks that are trading higher in the pre-market, 247 stocks trading lower. As far as volume, we have 190 million shares trading on up volume, 52 million shares trading on down volume. And if we convert that volume to dollar value, we have $2.9 billion worth of stock trading higher, $578 million worth of stock trading lower. So this points to a bullish lean in the pre-market trading. Let's look at it from a couple more perspectives before we move to the questions. I'm going to come down here, and now we see a list of stocks and stock symbols that are trading in the pre-market hours, along with the price changes, volume, and some alerts. We have a list of our most active stocks, the biggest percentage gainers in the pre-market, and the biggest percentage decliners. Here we see 85 stocks made our biggest percentage gainers list, 32 on our largest decliners list. So that also indicates that the trading in the pre-market has a bullish skew. Now, a couple things here to make it on this list. We set certain thresholds for liquidity, price changes, volume, and that's because stocks in the pre-market can trade with either very low volume or very illiquid. And so we do set those thresholds. And to make it on this list, it could be any security traded on the major U.S. exchanges that meets those thresholds. It could be an ETF, it could be preferred stock, it could be an inverse ETF. So to narrow down this list to a small group of stocks, we could use the filters above, which controls the stocks that are filtered in the list below. If you have a watch list and you save the group of stocks that you're watching, you can filter by that watch list using this filter. We're going to use the filter next to it in ETF. And when we click on that filter, we get a drop down menu to select from. And this has a list of different ETFs. We're going to choose this one, SPY. That's the S&P 500 ETF. So let's click on that. And when we do that, the list below will get filtered by stocks that are holdings in the SPY ETF. So actually, I think I'm gonna have to, let me refresh my screen. I think I had this open for too long on that screen. And now it's slow loading. So let's try that again. In ETF, I'm gonna select select SPY. And as you can see here, now the list below got filtered by those stocks in SPY, which are the S&P 500 constituents. And here we have 11 stocks that made it onto our biggest percentage gainers list, 8 on our largest decliners list. So that is somewhat balanced, a little bit more skewed towards the bullish side from this perspective. So we gave it a couple minutes. Will, I think at this point I'll take questions.
Nothing's popped up, D.
Okay. So let's default to SPY. See if we could use some tools there. On the SPY, that's my default symbol. And if we do have some questions pop up, let me know. What we'll do is maybe let's take a look at this chart in SPY. So I pulled up a chart in SPY, and if we scroll down, you get this secondary chart up top. We see let's come back up top here. Here, this is defaulted to yesterday's price chart, and we have a couple lines here. This yellow line, that is the day VWAP as time goes on. So the day it's accumulating the trade, the volume of the trade, the prices, and it's calculating a volume weighted average price. So then you could just visually see how the price deviates from that VWAP, right? So that's the yellow line. The VWAP, the blue line, is the price of the stock, last trade price as we move along the day. The red line over here, that's just showing us where the price closed at the previous day. Again, this way we could compare those other two lines to see where the stock is relative to the previous day's close and where the VWAP is also relative to the previous day's close and how it fluctuated yesterday. And it looks like yesterday, just looking at these lines, that it was a pretty muted volatility day. Not a lot. It looks like it just kept bouncing around the VWAP and actually the previous day's close as well. Then we have these two green lines, dotted lines above and below. And those lines here represent a 1 standard deviation move from the VWAP. Okay, so it's kind of like your support and resistance bands based on that, volatility around that VWAP. So meaning that 67% chance that we're going to be within that band based on that VWAP volatility. Okay. So that's this chart above. And if you want to, move out more days, you could use these tabs up here to change it to 5 days, one month VWAP, 3 months, and so forth. Okay. Let's come back to the 1 day. Now I'm going to come down here And now we got this secondary chart, and it defaults to the volume bars for the day. And on the day, I think it's like 5-minute snapshots here, and you could see how the volume progressed throughout the day. And you see here the big jump here at the end of the day at the close. So that was a big liquidity event. But there's a drop down, and we get to select from different options. Let's go down then to the sweep volume. Now, what this does is show us a line chart of what it looks like, what was this volume that traded, the trade volume that was designated as intermarket sweeps, basically aggressive marketable orders, right? So we could see here, that how it, if there was any unusual spikes throughout the day. And it looks like if, it fluctuates, but so far, just eyeballing this, there's no very big unusual spike where, we've seen like one big long lineup. So it just here, although there's like, some volatility in it, it looks like it, that it was, pretty much almost just like, kind of like how the stock moved. So sorry, actually, this is the sweep VWAP, right? So throughout the day. So this is based on the volume weighted average price of the sweep trades, which looks like, pretty much mirrored all the trading of the day. So let's now look at, and the sweep volume is the bars. So those are the bars down here, the volume versus the price. So I got mixed up myself. So here are the legends. This one is the VWAP price. This is the volume in 5 minutes. So the bars would be the ones that we would see an unusual spike. Okay. Let's change it now to a different view. And let's look at the odd lot volume. And pretty much, so I guess it was just too low. Doesn't show up. But odd lots could represent many small or broken up trades. So that one didn't. They're too low. Nothing showed up. What about dark pool volume? And here we kind of see the bars below the dark pool, the volume in the dark pool. And then we see the VWAP prices in the dark pool as well. So if you could match up the volume versus where the price range, it'll kind of point out if there was an unusual amount of volume in a dark pool at any point. All right. Let's come down. Value versus 20-day moving average. So this, actually, let me expand it to 5 days. Okay. So what this is looking at is, where is the stock price relative to the 20-day moving average? Okay. So here is the percentage that the stock price is away from its 20-day moving average. And it just kind of lets you really quickly visually see how far away did it get over time away from the 20-day moving average. Where are we now? Does it bounce below and above it? Here in the last 5 days, it looks like it was always positive, right? Because these are always positive numbers. That so far in the last 5 days, stock has been trending above its 20-day moving average. And, when as high as 3% above it, right? About 1% above it, as high as 3% above it. And it looks like, that even right now we're closer to that 3%. Okay, so it's bounced around between 2 and 3%. It looks like in the last couple of days. All right. And if we come up here in the last 5 days, what we see here is also where the stock, this is in the last 5 days, how the stock price traded relative to the VWAP price. So it's looking at the yellow line is the VWAP price, like we did for the 1 day. The blue line is just the last price of the stock, and those green lines are the standard deviation bands. So what we see here is that for the most part, it looks like that the stock has been trading most of the time. It looks like, it's been dragging the VWAP up. It broke through the band a couple times. So up here, we could see the green, it broke through its resistance, but then at that point came in, right? It hit the support, came back up, so what it's doing is, as it's trending higher, so far, this is what I'm eyeballing in the last 5 days. If we just looked at this chart, the takeaway is that as it's trending higher, it is bouncing around within its standard deviation band, right, to the top and bottom.
Hey, D?
Yeah.
We did have a question from Ivan about the support and resistance tab. How are these levels calculated?
Right. So the way that these standard deviations are calculated is it's comparing the VWAP price at every moment, right? The volume weighted average price. So this is a moving average, volume weighted average price versus the actual price. Okay. And it's taking the difference, right? So this blue line here is the actual price. The VWAP is the yellow line, right? So as I'm hovering over it, you can see that the price was $487.40. The VWAP on the day is $485.62. Well, that is a difference of let's say $2, a little bit less than $2.80, right? So whatever that is, and then we convert that to a percentage, right? So now we have the difference between VWAP and actual, and then the actual price. And then we do that, for every point. You're taking the differences between the average and the actual price to see how far away they move apart. And then you take that data and you calculate the one standard deviation. All right. So a one standard deviation move, then we go from the VWAP price, one standard deviation move up, and then we take the VWAP price, one standard deviation move down. So that's your band, right? So it's a moving band because the volatility can increase over time because it's we're doing a moving average, and the VWAP is moving around too. So that VWAP and the band is moving, and then we overlap that with the current price. Where is the current price now? Did it breach the standard deviation to one side or the other, or is it within the expected band based on how the stock has been trading? Right. So it's based on how the stock's been trading. We create that band and then we compare it to the most recent. So, over here, it looks like it started to come out top, like where I'm hovering over here. the price, was 495.60. The VWAP at the time was 492.92. And, one standard deviation move down it would get to 491.42. One standard deviation move up, 194.43. So you could see it was above that. All right. So that's how this volatility band is being calculated. Does that help?
Yeah, that seems helpful, Dave. Thanks.
Yep. All right. Now, keep in mind, if there's an earnings or something that could totally pop out just because that's an event, right? This is looking at, I think, like, I don't know, I have to go look, but I think this one's looking at like a 5-day rolling. So if there's something coming up that's more volatile, it could definitely pop out of there. This is just comparing the most recent history, the volatility in the most recent history. So coming down here, this was just looking at how the stock has been behaving relative to its 20-day moving average. So not the VWAP, but just 20-day moving average. If we looked at one point in time, right, on a specific date or time, and then we said, well, what is the 20-day average of all the last 20 closing prices, right? That's 20-day moving average. So tomorrow will be a different 20 days, next day different 20 days. You throw out the oldest data point, put in the newest point, right, and calculate the average of 20 days closing prices, and then we compare it to the last price. How far away are we, right? Are we way above it? Are we right at it? Are we way below it? Just to get a sense of like where this is, the stock ran away from its most recent historical prices, or is it trading around it? So this here is showing us a line that is the percent away, the stock price percent away from that 20-day moving average. So that's what we're doing. We're converting the difference between the stock price and the moving average in percentage terms, and then plotting that line so we could see how far away it is in percentage terms from the 20-day moving average and how that has been progressing over time.
AD?
Yeah.
Rob is asking, is there a way to get the selection of standard deviation tab to be the default when you go to the option chain? He says it always reverts to the spot price tab on the options chain. I'm actually not exactly sure what he's asking there. Maybe you are.
Well, let me take a look. Let's go to the
I know there's a way on the options chain that you can click on something that shows what strikes are standard deviation away, I think, right? Isn't there?
So I think I see. So I'm on the option chain right now in SPY. Let's go to February 8th. And this one standard deviation. So we have these little tabs here. If you click on it, it creates a marker. So one standard deviation move, if you click on it, you see this yellow, right? It says this is one standard deviation away from the spot price, 505 and 492 to the downside. One standard deviation move up, one standard deviation move down, and it's centered around the spot price, right? That's what it's doing. This standard deviation move is based on the implied volatility, so this one isn't coming from the stock prices, it's coming from the options implied vols. And saying, well, based on the option implied vols, one standard deviation move is 492, 505. So right here, the spots like were closed around here, 498.35. And now we could visually see in orange a one standard deviation move up or down in SPY for that month, right? For this particular February 16th expiration. So that's how we have it centered. I mean, I'm not sure if you're saying like expand it to 2 standard deviation or 3 standard deviations, or you're trying to change the strike price around the standard. I'm not sure if I understood. Read
Well,
the
Rob,
question.
if you want to expand, just expand and just type in, or you know how to come on live. Just let us know you want to come on live and discuss that. We could do that on Monday. We're right up against the opening bell.
Yep.
D, great job as always.
Okay. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you for the questions. Everyone have a good weekend. Stay safe out there. Remember, we're doing a webinar next Tuesday, right? Coming up
The
with
IBKR webinar.
interactive
We haven't
brokers.
announced that. Let me
Yeah,
go before we don't want to sign out before
yeah.
I
We
bring
should have
that
said
link.
that at the start, just so people start signing up. Um, and I'm hoping to have some new features out for that new webinar that we'll be discussing. And that's gonna be Tuesday,
So it
2 p.m.
says Lincoln trade data for valuable insights. Is that correct?
Yeah, and we're gonna go over, how you could take different financial data and start compiling and putting them together for better insights. Uh, um, they're often used in valuation models. Um, they're often used relative value models, or even in options. And we're going to talk about options, like how do we link all this data out there to get better insights of what's going on. Okay, so that's going to be on Tuesday at 2 p.m.
So Rob did follow up. He just so if you go to another date on the options chain, the tab standard deviation stays selected instead of tab reverting to spot price.
Um, oh, reverts. Oh, so just to stay on this as you click over. Um, okay, that's
That
a
that sounds like that's a development
look up feature.
good
Yeah,
feature. All right.
yeah. Have to
Well,
take a
we'll
look
put
at.
that in the long list of development requests.
Yep.
And there are lots of them.
Yeah. We get a lot of like
Yeah.
feature requests for sure.
But Rob is one of our wonderful regulars, so anything we could do for him would be greatly appreciated. All right, great job, Dima, as always.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining. Stay safe out there. Have a great trading day. Oh, have a great weekend as well. And hope to see you guys Monday morning.
Yep. Links in the chat to register everyone for the IBKR webinar on Tuesday. Great job, D. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye.